Welcome to the Global Gurus podcast. This is a 15-minute conversation with thinkers shaping the future of leadership and business. I'm Rhett Power. It is great to be with you. Laura Gassner-Otting. We have Mark Nation here with us today, another co-host, but also a global guru and an amazing human. Now, this show, we do three questions in every episode, and we ask, what is the biggest problem you see right now? What's the original methodology you've built to solve it? And how are you applying it to create measurable results in the real world? Laura, it is good to be with you.
It is great to be here. And I'm so excited to be here with Mark Nation, who is a global guru in trust, which is, I think, one of the biggest issues that it's affecting leadership today. So Mark, why don't you tell us, what is the biggest problem you see right now?
Sure. It really comes down to human connection. And for me, the biggest problem I see on the great stage among CXOs and the C-suite is really a belief issue. And tracing back challenges all the way back to, okay, what is it in me that's causing constraints or is having difficulty getting over my anger, or that requires control, or that wants to jump in and add more value to the team's efforts and then undermines them. So it usually becomes a person-centered problem, and that person usually is the person I'm working with. And at its core, even below that level, is a fundamental belief challenge. So we all sort of hit that upper limit where we feel like we've reached our capacity. And for some, it's the size of a thimble. And for others, it's the size of a big lake. But no matter how far you go, eventually you get to this place where you feel, well, I'm totally out of my depth here. People are going to find me out, and I really kind of have no clue. What do you do then? It really is a fundamental belief issue. And so how do you get to the heart of that, work on it so that you can kind of blow the cap off that capacity, as John Maxwell says?
That's amazing. What for you, Mark, is the way to solve this? What in your work helps solve that issue?
Yeah. Well, a lot of it for me is it's awareness. So helping people become aware of patterns, of behaviors, of shadow sides, getting them to verbalize and vocalize what they feel are challenges, or their own friction points, so that you know where to start ironing out some wrinkles. It's that awareness, getting people to understand where they can make improvements, and we all can. And to recognize that there's a fundamental assumption, which is, well, I want to change. A lot of people don't want to change. And we all know change is hard of any kind. And a lot of people, just when we come right down to it, don't want to. And for me, getting the right clients, a lot of it has to do with making sure people are growth minded and are curious and have enough ability to be transparent and vulnerable to the point where they can say, okay, I'm good. I may be even really good, but I want to be better. There's still room to go. This is not the person I'm fully meant to become yet. Let's see what we can work on. It's starting there. The other part of my life personally that I never expected to weave into business is about relational literacy. And we in the business world call it communication. Communication is the words you use, the thoughts you think that lead to words, but there's so much happening in your nervous system below that for much of my life I didn't even realize. And when I found out things that from the counseling and therapy world, like, you can't think your way out of a nervous system problem. You can't talk when there's friction between two people or a team. You can't necessarily think your way out of it, because people are operating from old places and patterns that sit below the decision-making process. So how do you work through that, even in a business setting? I've found fascinating and also very powerful.
Yeah, I think that's super powerful that, starting with awareness, vocalizing where you are, having that desire to change, the growth mindset, but underpinning all of that is all of the deep work that we have to do, right? And the way that we talk to each other, the way that, as Red says, we talk to ourselves, right? For me, it's that narrative identity of the stories that we tell ourselves in between. And I know in your executive coaching work that you do, in the keynote speaking work that you do, you spend a lot of time helping people focus on that heart-centered leadership, which doesn't start with the typical idea of leaders have to be perfect, but starts actually with the imperfection of who we are and where we can go together. So how are you applying that to create measurable results out in the real world? Like beyond these great ideas, how do you apply that to create those measurable results?
Yeah, yeah. Well, with C-suite clients, it's really about identifying those areas on the inside that eventually comes out, and everything does. So, what is it sort of when you pull the red thread all the way back? What's the common theme and pattern that A is a really strong point or points that you want to amplify and sort of blow out? And B, what are the couple of areas that might be shadow sides, known or unknown, that you could work on, that a little bit of progress would bring great results. So, small hinges, swing big doors, and just helping people become aware of that, and then doing the work. It's simple, but it's not easy. Um, so
So I have to ask the
yeah,
question that I'm sure every leader is thinking right now, which is like, well, I'd love to do that, but then people are going to find me out. Then I'm going to have to be vulnerable. What if I have my other senior leaders do it and it gets messy? I have to deal with emotions. Like, we got to get the deliverables done. How do I deal with the messiness of emotions, both for them and for me?
yeah. Well, yeah. So it's messy, but it's not messy. That's our interpretation that it's messy. It's actually very powerful and most importantly, very human. All those emotions are there for a reason. And so part of what I do when I'm talking to prospects is try to ferret out, how comfortable are you talking with your team? How clear and consistent and transparent are you willing to be? Because if they're not, there's always going to be that wall. And you don't want a wall to define relationships. You want love and openness and trust to define it. So the way that you bring people along is that you just are honest and say, well, I've been doing some work. I've been taking a look at myself. I've asked a group of you stakeholders how you think I'm doing, where you think I could improve. And here's what I'm going to commit to. And I want to share it with you because I'd like you to see me getting better. And I might ask your advice and to hold me accountable. Simple, but not easy. And that even indirectly, very subtly, but powerfully sets the tone for, oh, wow, I'm so surprised this guy or gal did that. I could probably be comfortable bringing my next problem to him or her, and it can cascade from there. But the leader always sets the tone, and it always starts with us. It's not about us, but it starts with us.
Mark, I gotta ask. I mean, we're in such times. I mean, we're in this like seminal moment, right? With all the culture stuff going on and the political stuff going on and the and technology. I mean, all the stress around what is my business even going to look like in 6 months, and not being able to see around the corners. I remember working on 5-year plans when I ran my toy company. I remember working, I could look out 5 years and predict what my product lines would look like. You can't do that now. And I wonder, because of that, what I know is if I'm feeling stressed as a leader, my team is feeling it 10 times, right? Because of all the uncertainty. This seems to me the best way to lead right now. It's the best way to retain your team. It's the best way to uh, keep people engaged and to build trust. So this seems like a business imperative right now to me. I mean, what do you think?
I think it is, and now more than any time that I'm aware of in history, it begs the existential questions because all of us are uncertain. We're all on sort of in uncharted water. Um, and it does beg existential questions, which help you decide what kind of person and a leader you are. Questions like, okay, well, what is my purpose for being here? What is the meaning of work? What do I value out of work? How do I enjoy, if at all, interacting with people inside of work and out? How can I be radically present in a future that's completely not guaranteed? How do I always make the most of the moment I'm in right now? How do I operate knowing that the overwhelming truth of life is everything ends? It sounds horribly not very positive, but when you realize that, I've told a couple of teams before when I first introduced myself and we were talking, I'm like, just one day this will be over. We'll leave this company. This company may get sold. We'll go into different roles, even different groups, and one day it'll be over. But we have now, and we can engineer the moments that become the memories that we can share and look back on and tell our friends and our families about. So knowing that, let's engineer some good stuff, and let's always make the most of the moments that we have and that we're in.
We can engineer the moments that make the memories. That is an incredible statement. I think one of the most sobering pieces of advice I ever got was when I was talking about how indispensable I was and how important I was, and I had to do all the things. The guy looked at me and he was like, "The graveyard is filled with indispensable people." And I was like, "Oh." True story. But I want to go back to, you said the P word, right? Purpose. And I think a lot of people, having spent 20 years in executive search, a lot of people would feel embarrassed if they spent their career making money, if they thought, well, maybe I should spend my career trying to do, quote unquote, do good in the world. And I think purpose is an interesting word because some people can define purpose as curing cancer. Some people can define purpose as making so much money that you can donate money to the nonprofit that can cure cancer, right? For some people, purpose is being able to make enough money that your children can have different choices than you had. For some, it's, wearing the white hat, but everybody defines purpose differently. So can you have this heart-centered leadership and this authenticity and this trust with your team, even if you're not doing like being a do-gooder, but you're in like a money-driven, a profit-driven company? Purpose is still, you can still have purpose there, right?
Absolutely. And purpose is so, we want to think it's so singular and simple, which then makes it hard for us. And we feel like just the fact that we want it and that we're looking for it means we don't have it. But in a lot of cases, purpose happens along the way, and purpose is iterative. You can have a life purpose, you can have a leadership purpose. My focus really in the workplace is on leadership purpose. And so that's more defined. There's a sort of smaller aperture. But ultimately, purpose is what we do each day. And so there are all sorts of micro moments of purpose. And I think ultimately, a good place to start is to make sure you have congruence between your head, your heart, and your gut. And you bring your real self to life with all of its messiness and emotions and feelings. And, without having to do anything too silly or too crazy, just be you. And try to get to know everyone else, who they are, because the truth is they're one of a kind. They're a masterpiece too. And if we can just try to make each day a little bit of a masterpiece, by definition, we're living in our purpose.
So what's your advice, Mark? We've got about 3 minutes or 2 minutes now, but I want to ask you this. You and I, all of three of us are probably about the same age. We won't go into how old that is, but we were always told, don't bring our stuff to work, right? Leave it at the door. That's not possible, is it?
It's possible. It's not pragmatic or practical. And so you can filter it a little bit, but I always want to know people. The best leaders I've ever known, they've known me. And it's we want to be known. That's one of the deepest senses of
Yeah.
satisfaction we can get in life. And it's also possible with work. It's just to be known and appreciated and understood and occasionally encouraged. So leaders have that opportunity. And if you just really take a person-centered approach, an other-centered approach, what I call sort of a love-centered approach, you're going to get to that. So knowing about people is important. And a subset of that is, so what's going on with work or this business plan or the M&A update? That's very important. And that's part of the person you're standing in front of.
Well, man, I could talk to you forever. I don't know about you, Laura, but this has been an amazing conversation, and I appreciate you so much.
Thank you so much, Rhett. Thank you, Laura.
Mark, do you want to tell people who are like, God, that sounds so smart, I need to learn more about that? Where can people find you?
You can find me at nationleadership.com, Mark at Nation Leadership, email, and marknation.net. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. I'm around.
Well, thank you for joining us here on the Global Gurus podcast. 15 minutes of thought leadership, and we hope you join. We hope you join us next week. We're gonna have an episode every week. 3 questions, 1 methodology, real results. That's what we explore here at Global Gurus. Thank you for joining us, Laura. It's always a pleasure.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.